This conference will now be
Oh,
recorded.
so yeah, so I have done two implementation, two support projects as of now, and I'm with uh, 20.4 in the product uh, you know in the support as of now in the HANA and the HANA. So
Oh,
it's up to date one. So as I know you are good with FICO, so then maybe I will be good. It you may understand very easily other than any other consultant. Maybe if someone from above. So do you know anything about the invoice under invoice management process so far as you worked in FICO? Do you have anything any
uh,
exclusive?
yeah, so as of now, I started a little bit. So like I have a basic idea. Generally, it's a integration point with So you will have either a PO invoice or a non-PO invoice, and then you will kind of you know those PO uh, will lead to a workflow generation in Vim from where a DP is generated, and then you will like kind of have some business rules in place where you will kind of check for those rules if they are as per requirement, and then it will go to approval flow, and then it will kind of make a posting into Miro eventually. So at the same time, it's like you have a part of Vim where you have got ICC, where you kind of used to scan the paper invoices, and once those scanned paper invoices are used to create DPs in Vim.
Okay, now I mean you are good with flow than the application. Am I right? I mean the application configuration.
Yeah, I have an idea. It's just like a week I started working in it, but I have a little bit of idea of like what it is as of now. The basic business concept I got from there.
Okay, so that's fine. So I'm just giving the overview and the how the training goes, and I'm just giving the expectation of this training and what you get out of this training and what is the content and the expectation of this training. So I just show some competitors and who are there in the market and who actually competitors for SAP OpenText win. So far, I have identified, as you can see, uh, so we have, can you see my screen in
Yeah,
Notepad?
yeah, I can see your screen. It's just your voice is a little, low. It's not clear.
Okay, you can see my Notepad, right?
No, I can see the PPT.
Okay, okay, just a second. Okay, let me just tell you the see there are few competitors on the market. We have a Invoice Red Cockpit and we have Ariba, we have a Profex, we have a Concur and we have a Sinova AG that is from Germany. So these all are open text competitors where they have the easy invoice processing where they can you know it's not as like as the Vim, but they have the easy invoice process. I mean, it's a e-invoicing processing. But this OpenText has successfully, managed the market because of their workflow, which is integrated with SAP, and the reports that they have, and the uh, uh, you know easy maintenance of each workflow workflow, the roles that they have. So this Vim, OpenText Vim has been successfully occupied the market, sharing. So, I mean, we have now, they have a different, competitors, in the market for the OpenText SAP, but still the most of the market is occupied because the OpenText has facilitated and they have, where it is user friendly, and even in each stage you can have report, and you can see the where the invoice is there and with whom it is there. And if you have a different landscape, and OpenText will provide you, you know, the approval process within the SAP as well as outside the SAP. So that mechanism has successfully, how do you say, implemented and the agreed or accepted by the market. Most of the customers, if you go and if you show, like different vendors, like we have a different softwares that are there in the market. And as I could see, in the market, if you see, the migration of the different softwares from like as I said, the names. So those are migrating to SAP because the OpenText has a facility. A facility that where you can upgrade along with the SAP, because this SAP Vim, the OpenText Vim is as like add-on, so which use the workflow uh, on SAP. It is just like it is the workflow engine will be used from SAP. So I just wanted to, give the information, that what are the competitors and how this, you know, SAP OpenText has been occupied in the market so far. So in the future also, this has a more, occupancy and user acceptancy in the market because of the the software that is designed with the different roles, and it is easy to configure and easy to change. And yeah, there are many things which included this software to go for to opt a customer easily. So that was one thing that I wanted to tell you. But yeah, what is this vendor invoice management? Vikrant, can you hear me? Is it fine? Is it any disturbance or
Yeah, yeah, I can
something
hear you.
like that?
It's little better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this open text vendor invoice management, this actually designed to process the invoice, electronically. So we have SAP that we have. Since you're working for FICO, so let's say if we have an invoice and if we go for FB60, and what we do is we do enter a manual input, and what is the date, document date and posting date and reference and amount and tax and all. So, and yeah, we can park that, invoice. Let's say if it goes for a approval, so we can park that invoice. So it will go for a, relevant approver. But, and the, relevant approver can go ahead and check, and you can modify, and you can approve or whatever exception. Whatever the data which is required, and you can see the approval amount and all, you can approve and you can approve for posting. But in end of the day, so you cannot, find out the, the reports that are required and where this invoice is there and with whom it is there. So we can, the invoice, SAP invoice parking will not help to find out the entire invoice is, this, the process of easy, invoicing. So what maybe, let's say if it is a PO invoicing, so it is very difficult to, pull down the report. So even we have a multiple reports in the SAP, but it will not help to, pull out the reports. So if you see in SAP vendor invoice management, we have a different reports and which we can, drill down and see the where this invoice. We have a central reporting and we have a aging reporting report which can tell you what are the aging reports and all. So this can help. This can differentiate the software OpenText and SAP existing invoice management. So OpenText comes with a different package. So where you could say different roles are there. We have a different AP processor role and indexing role and scanner role. So this all will help to find out the invoice where it is at, where it is lying. So and one more thing, when we are processing in SAP FB60, so you cannot see the physical scanned copy parallelly in SAP. But where you can see in the open text, Vim, you can see the Vim in Vim Analytics or Vim Workplace. You can see the parallel, easy invoice. Uh, Hey Vikram, can you go on mute? Or I think that you can see a lot of noise in your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, hope you can hear me now. It's fine. Is it fine?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I'll be on mute.
So yeah. So as I said, the, to talk to SAP and the why SAP has brought the open text, because this is a differentiate, that SAP, itself cannot process the as like open text, process the invoice. So yeah. So what are the challenges, that we have in open text? Why the open text brought this vendor invoice management? So let's focus on this one. So we have a manual, AP, FI and AP process. So let's say if one vendor has the invoice. So in general, we have the mail room that everyone sends the email or fax or some like the letter, whatever the fax, a different way. So they will send to the mail room. So in the mail room, maybe they reject, or you can see, as you can see, so there are different ways that will receive a manual, physical copy where accounting department will see and they will go with the by seeing the manual paper and they'll put in the park, they'll enter in the system and they, they will, they parking and they'll put the data and everything. And you can see here, if they park and there is EDI, and that goes and post in the last, release the invoice. So yeah, that's how it. If anything, uh, data missing, then the coder will come and the once coder enters and the approvers, they will approve the invoice based on their amount, the approval limit that they have. So here, So what it means, this is all the manual process. So this all about, you know, how the invoice and how it is paid, how the invoice received and how it is paid. So this all manual process will take a long time. So let's say if one vendor has supplied a goods and where it has a payment terms of 30 days, which we can get some discount. So let's think that, I mean, due to this manual process, and every time when the invoice receives, it get delays in where we receive, where we miss the discount. So there are many factors that involve once we receive a manual, invoice that we may delay to pay, where we miss our, discount that we if we do for, you know, paying in time, on time, so we may get something, some discount like that, discounting. So the manual and where, uh, managers will not get a correct picture, where this invoice is lying and with whom, in the manual process, who has to approve and who's supposed to take the action. So in the manual process, it will get delayed and the entire, process will get delayed and the management will confuse and how much revenue that they have to, I mean, that they are pending and they have to pay and future planning and of the, for a particular entity will be in the mess, I would say. So to get a complete clarification, so the manual AP processing will not help. So for that, so what this open text Vim has brought, so the entire picture which you see has been, you put in such a way where you can see in each area you can see a, different report. So let's say if you have the coder and if you have approver, if you have AP processor, and let's say if you have a mail room and if you see the scan document, so you can see the each area. So we have a different report that has been identified where you can have a, complete picture of the invoicing of what you need to pay. I mean, one organization has to pay, and how much it has to pay, and when it has to pay, and what if they have pay, within the, payment terms, what they will get and what they lose, and everything will be monitored, and it can be, uh, rectified in time. So with the records. So that I would say, I mean, these are the, these are manual challenges which has been, uh, you know, eliminated through the in the open text way. So you, as you can see, once you receive, it will take a time consuming and manual routing and where if you see in normal cases we have in the business side, in the AP processing, we have nearly 20 or 30 people, depending on the invoice that you receive, the labor intensive monitoring updates, and you need to park the invoice for PO, it's a different team, and non-PO is different team, and for updating is different, and approval is different. Within the team, there are labor, there are many, people required to process the invoicing. So enable, as I said, cash flow. So you may not optimize the cash flow as you don't know where this invoice is, uh, lying. So you don't have any monitor, you don't have any because it's a manual process. So you don't see where exactly, and you do your system will not help you to identify uh, where it is there and where you need to take the action. So you will not be having the control. So you cannot, you know, you cannot uh, take any, further planning on the invoicing or the cash flow uh, from your budget. I mean, there is no transparency. As you see, in the easy, I mean, processing, invoice processing, you cannot see any transparency because the invoice may lie in a different, I mean, there is no, uh, there are different persons involved in the invoice processing. Let's say PO, so is a buyer, and then let's say, and if it is different goods, then there may be a different person to take the action. So it's in the manual process. You cannot go and you cannot say this something and they can modify or they can do something in manual processing and the business transparency where you can, there are many things that are involved. And as you see, yeah, the lack of process control, you will not be having any control because it's a manual, and you will not be having any report in the end of the day. And yeah, that may be introduced the compliance risk. So these are the manual processing risks, I mean invoice processing risks that you know have the uh, in current situation. So what SAP Vim Invoice Management or OpenText Vim has brought here. So if we have a big organization that we have a different channels that can go for a different mechanism. Let's say we have a email channel, we have a EDI channel, we have ICC, OCR software that can help, and we have Ariba, we have a different kind of input channels. We have OD, that we have if we have any you know urgent payment. So so this is the complete picture of the SAP Vim. I mean, as you can see, uh, it's a flow of SAP invoice management. So what exactly it is? So let's say the first one is image capture. So you can see here the prepare. So here SAP invoice management is the preparation where you can see scanning. This is image capture here, and in SAP we in the Vim as you can say vendor invoice management, we need to have the SAP archive server for the archiving the PDF. That is a mandatory. You may have, maybe archiving server, open archiving server, or documentum, or maybe whatever things that there should be, uh, the archive server to archive the PDF, the invoice PDF. So then later, so here you can see this is the invoice recognition. You can say it's a key data capture. So here the OCR at the validation will happen here. So once, I mean, let's say one thing we can say here, we receive an invoice where it's scanned through the enterprise scanner. So here, once it's scanned through the batch jobs, it will push the data to the OCR, to the ICC server, you can say. There is the invoice recognition. So here there is a OCR mission that will uh, recognize the metadata. Once it is recognized, so the validation, there is a validation happens. So through the batch jobs again, we have a validation client where you can see at different status in the validation client, and now we can see the BCC. previously it is a validation plan, type 2 validation plan. So now, so once it is the validation is complete, so it triggers the, once the mandatory data is captured, it triggers the workflow. So it triggers the workflow where you can see the workflow is based on the, we have the setup, the archive document, and all the workflow engine that is used from SAP itself. Invoice verification will come from it. So here, so once workflow is triggered, uh, so here uh, verify and complete. So in the Vim workplace, you can see uh, the data that you one can see the and verify the complete data that has been recognized. I mean that has been validated from here. And here you can see collaborating and monitoring exception. So exception handling. So let's say if we have a one invoice, we have a different process types that we have. So let's say invalid vendor or invalid process rule, a business rule that we have. So that can be verified, and once it is processed, so you can if that invoice goes for approval, it's based on the startup authority. I mean, which is that if it is inside the SAP, it goes for SAP, based on startup authority, which is maintained based on company code and cost center and the level of amount that they put. And we may discuss in different in detail in some sessions. So we have header level and line item level approval and startup authority that can be discussed. So yeah, here once the invoice goes for approval, it will approve, it will get approved. And if there is no discrepancy, and it will go for a payment. If there is any discrepancy, then it will go for a payment block. So that's how, I mean, this, the process happens within the SAP, project, scan to pay. You can say this one as a scan to pay. This process for Q to pay or scan to pay, you can say whatever process you could say. So yeah, that's how it happens. So the main, basically here there are different channels that we need to discuss, and I mean, as I said, so we have a multiple channels to discuss. So here you can see a simple optimized anti-invoice management process. As you can see, this is the way they optimize the invoice management process, and so you can see enable the more accurate and financial reporting with capability complete visibility. So as I said, so this visibility means if we have a one invoice, so I mean, let's say if we have different roles, we have a different roles and the different process types. You can say business rules and roles, business rules and business roles and approvers, and you can say the roles and rules means exceptions, and you can say process types. So here in each area, you have the report. So you will be having the visibility, so complete visibility. So, and segregate the duties to the workflow control. So, the segregate workflow means, let's say, indexing role. We have a process, AP processor role, and we have, tax approval role. So, these are all roles. We have we have a segregation of the workflow controls. So if we have any invoice pending with the indexing, so then particular manager or whoever, we can go and check that and direct that if we process this so many invoices are lying on this role and with you and just you process that. So that can be directed because of we have the complete visibility and we know where this invoice is lying. So as the Vim will help to control an entire life cycle of the invoice. So from the scan to till payment. So you will be having the entire visibility and when it's supposed to pay and yeah. So that entire control will be with the management so that they can plan accordingly. And as you can see, they monitor across the steps. Each step you can monitor, and you can go for you have the audit report, complete audit report, which will have the history of the entire invoice workflow. And if you open the any invoice, you can see the entire approval workflow history along with the documents that are attached. So the audit trail and the audit person can see the complete history of the life cycle of the invoice. So we provide the report. So you can see the reduce the cost and manual error. So as you can see, as we configured the entire required fields and everything, so it reduced the cost manual error. So costly manual. Let's say there are mandatory fields that are required and we in the manual process we may forget and it will instead of one tax code you enter another tax code and everything. I mean and the amount that we supposed to we may get high or low. So this kind of things we may get in the manual processes. But whereas in the Vim you will not be having that because in the scanning side and everything will be validated in step by step. Let's say because we have a parallel PDF copy when you are processing what is the amount that we got from the vendor. So you can see the vendor amount that has been invoiced, and you always the AP processor can verify if he fails in the coder, if he fails then approver. So you can see parallelly in the Vim workplace or wherever in the Vim dashboard. So this can help to reduce the manual error. So I mean you can see as a mirror whenever whoever approves, whoever takes the action in the particular invoice. So you can see that invoice or scanned invoice. So that can be one thing. As you can see, Vim will work on the just like in the other software. So it works on the based on SAP workflow and it will work portal and ABAP. So it uses the same. So the workflow will be I mean workflow trigger will be as you see in the configuration. So the add-on software will use the SAP workflow. So here you can see this is the diagram that actually help to understand the the flow of the context invoice. So here you can see the image scan. Let's say you are the vendor and you send the invoice that you supplied the goods and you send this image. And what the customer does, he scans the invoice, image scan, and it sends to OCR ICC software that we can call now as a BCC. So here, this is like you cannot say this is a Vim component. So it's just like a the other component or you can say other product of OpenText, which will help to scan the invoice. So as you can see here, this you can see these are the input invoice input channel, you can say, and you see here Vim OCR option. So if he is the rich client, he has a many invoices that needs to be scanned in a particular location, like Europe or US. So you go for this option if he has bulk invoices that can go for scanning. So he will opt this option. It's a depending on the requirement of the particular client. So yeah, and you can see here in the down the content repository. So in OAC3 in the Vim in the SAP, this will help to store the the PDF that the vendor sends, and it will help to future it will always can be seen in the Vim workplace as long as the content repository or archiving server is active. So and these are just input channels that you can say. Here it may be email channel or EDI like IDAC channel, whatever it may be. This you can say input channels. You can say here. There are many input channels that we have. As I said, email channel and OAWD, that is a manual scanning and Ariba. Once this email, scanning invoice comes. So here you can see these are the Vim component, the document processing. So here it starts and it validates the data that we have that we receive, and it creates a document processing, and it creates exception, and it once it's cleared and it goes for invoice approval. So it's invoice approval. It's a depending on again it's a depending on the size of the invoicing and size of the particular organization. Let's say we have TCP that we have that will work outside the SAP. Where you can create a functional module that pre-configured and predefined one, or you can if you have a less one, then you can go within the SAP. Or if you have medium size, you can go for open desktop portal, or you can opt for a mobile approval. But it's depending on the size of or invoice that you receive daily or monthly. So it's based upon the values you can say. So these are the components. So you can see which you can see in the you can in different colors. You can see green is the content repository, in the black you have the input channel. So yeah, this like it shows the flow of the invoice uh, where the Vim is involved, where the other components are involved. So that's the one diagram that helps. Vikram, hope you can understand, and I hope it is clear.
Yeah.
Let's continue session. So as you can see here, it's easy invoicing where we have, let's say it's easy invoice. I mean, it's like e-invoice, and we have email server. It's one kind of, where you have one channel, that email channel. So you will be receiving the email server that we predefined and SOP. So it will send to SOP where it will be scanned and it will be archived and it will be processed. And you have the paper invoice, if vendor sends the invoice, and it will be you may have the particular located or location wise scanner, where you can say manual scanner, and they will send, and where you may opt for an enterprise scanner that you can the scanned invoice the enterprise scanner will scan, and it, the OAWD will be called when you use the enterprise scanner, and it will be archived and it will push to the Vim. So that is the one thing. So this is the email channel, and this is a paper invite. Um, you can see here archive server. Again, as I said, it's like it will push to SAP as soon as it is archived, and it will push to the uh, SAP Vim. An archive image will be populated when the particular invoice AP processor can see and populate whatever the key fields which are there. Sorry. And whatever he feels that needs to be updated, he will be updated, and it will be again, you know, it will be updated. So as soon as it's updated, it's a relevant uh, type server. Yeah. So as soon as it's updated, the relevant approver will receive and he will approve, and it will get posted in SAP. So it's if it is a PO invoice, let's say it's a non-PO or PO invoice, let's say PO invoice, it's a pre-approved one. And within the PO also we may have a different flow, like where you may need some approval required, where you may not required, it will directly posted, and in invoice will be posted and you will directly go for a payment on the same day. It's depending on the process from the business that you have. So that will be taken care when you are configured. So as we say, you can see here the I mean, this is the flow that we have. The capture the image that we have the invoice, the physical copy, and whatever the physical copy that we have, whatever the data that we require. Let's say if we are processing the G60, so what do you need? You need the document date and posting date and the reference of the invoice and amount and tax code and document type, whether it is credit memo or invoice or whatever. So we need a particular GL that we need to post or credit or debit. So I mean, this all the invoice capture your image you have and the capture data you need to put. So this is the capture data, and here is the validate. I mean here in the Vim side you can validate the data. Uh, so here AP processor will validate the data. So this is the trigger point where it's again one can see the one has to validate all the mandatory fields that are configured. Uh, like it's a compare to B60. So all the company code, everything should be there before you know in processing the invoice. Then you apply the rule, and once all the applying the rules, then you go for a posting the invoice. Then it goes for the payment. So the posting of the invoice, as we said frequently. So here OCR system, as I said, this captures the data, reads the invoice, mandatory invoice that we require to process Q1 invoice. So as there are, mostly it is 10 fields that we require, and you could say the first is a company code and uh, in, amount and tax code and the details of the invoice. So GL automatically determines within the based on the company code or cost center. So those mostly the 6 mandatory fields will be there when you are scanning a particular. So and later validate or receive. To validate, you can validate from the ACC client here, or you can validate from the Vim workplace, which are based on the flow. So once it's validated in the capture ICC, so it should be valid. It should be uh, the mandatory should be filled. Mandatory field should be filled so that the validation client will push the data against the view. So that's how it works. So uh, if there is no validation, validate data which is mandatory, and as long as it is not filled, and it will have to pumping the data to them. So, so the validation will happen in the validation point and ICC. If you ask for the ICC, so invoice check it's any duplicate required. When you apply the rules from the Vim workplace, so you will be checking client the Vim workplace will check any duplicate of the invoices. So let's say it checks based on the amount and company code and reference of the invoice. Yes, these are the fields that helps to identify if the invoice is a duplicate or not. So then it goes for the posting of this, which all upon the business being successful and goes for the payment. So this is how the entire invoice flow uh, will happen in the win. So do you have any questions? You can here so far. Hello.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I was on mute.
So do you have any questions so far?
No, like I got a brief idea. I've actually seen this process like in a city, so I could relate to it. Yeah. So okay. So in the course, like, do you cover like the logic, like workflow and all those things as well? Like, what all things would you cover?
Uh, I I just show you, the content of the. Just a second, I'll show you the what exactly. Um, just a second, I'm just sharing. Can you see?
Oh yeah, I can see now. Yeah.
So this is how it's almost a 30 years of training. So here we see the Vim challenges and we discuss in the mandatory configuration that we have archiving, document type, and Vim roles and process options and ADC. And we have a few invoicing process and how the DP document typing is created and logic modules and code determination. And we have a Vim non-zero processing, how the process flow happens and the invoice extraction and process type creation and all. So we have an invoice approval process and we have a Vim reports and background jobs and channel configuration. And so far, the IES is still in the trial mode. So, um, I'll explain about how this happens. We have a processes and content that we discussed during the.
Sir, your voice is breaking. Not able to hear the last part.
Yeah, this is the content, I mean, that we discussed,
Okay.
that we will discuss during the, the training. So
Okay. Okay, sir.
yeah, let Subbu know anything, from your side. And thanks for
No,
joining.
nothing as of now. I'm good. Thank you for your time. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Bye. Good night.